Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about lubrication and specifically what lubricants you should use. This is one of the most asked questions that I ever have, so I thought I'd make a video on it. So first off, let's start with what you shouldn't use. WD-40. On no account should you use WD-40. If you put this in your cube, it will probably ruin it within a week because it will eat the plastic very aggressively. Don't use it. Do not use Vaseline for the same reason. Now Vaseline eats your cubes, but a lot slower than WD-40 does. Now a lot of people may disagree with me because in the past this was the lubricant of choice for a lot of people, especially when the older mechanism with the blockier cubes were kind of preferred before we had the modern day cubes like the Moyu cubes and the Zanchis. And the reason that they liked it was because, let me show you, this is the closest thing I've got to a Rubik's brand cube, it's very blocky, is that on the older cubes there is a lot of excess plastic here, and they'd use it because it doesn't matter if you eat away a little bit of the plastic here, it'll actually speed it up. But the problem is that modern day cubes are a lot thinner, and you'll end up with them falling apart in 6 months if you end up using this. It's also not that good at speeding up your cube. Now if you do want to speed up an older cube, I still don't recommend Vaseline because it's essentially modifying the internals, and a more precise modification tool like sandpaper or Dremel or a nail file would just be better, because Vaseline is indiscriminate about where it eats, and if it eats apart your core, the cube will fall apart. So don't use Vaseline. If you want to mod your cube, use the proper equipment. Don't use WD-40, don't use Vaseline. Now I don't have any here, but another lubricant that is or was popular is Jigaloo, which is I think about 30 to 60% silicone, which is good. Silicone's good, but the other ingredient in is some kind of a chloride, which is actually a paint stripper. So I wouldn't recommend you use that either, because that will ruin your cubes probably in 6 months to a year. So don't use that. Another lubricant that has been popular in the past but not so much recently is CRC, heavy duty silicone spray. Now this is fine in the sense that it won't eat your plastic, even though it says on it not safe for use on plastics. But if you don't work it in properly, so you need to spray it on and immediately work it in, keep the cube moving for about 5 minutes, otherwise it will actually glue your pieces together. It will do the opposite. And also I wouldn't necessarily say it's as good as modern day lubricants. So what should you use if you're not using CRC, Jigaloo, Vaseline and WD-40? Well, silicone, 100% pure liquid silicone is the best thing to use on your cube in terms of speeding it up. Here I've got some silicone. Basically Lubricants, which is a very popular sort of custom designed cube lubricant out on the market, which is also very expensive. It's just pure silicone. It's essentially the same as this. Now this is differential oil, which is actually for remote control cars, and this is shock oil, which is for the shock absorbers on remote control cars. And the difference between differential oil and shock oil is that the differential oil is thicker than the shock oil, but both are very good in your cube. And this is essentially the same. Differential oil is essentially the same as Lubricants, what you'd buy from the Cubicle or any other speed cubing shop that has cube lubricant, liquid cube lubricant. It's essentially the same as this. Now you want to get somewhere in the region of 40k weight, although if you get Traxxas, which is what this brand is, it's 30. They only come in 30k and 50k. I went for the 30k with this, which is pretty good. And you want to use this for your core, and you can use it for your pieces as well, the pieces of the cube. Now shock oil is thinner, it's runnier, whereas this is thick and very gloopy. This is thinner, so this is actually better for higher order cubes that have got a lot of pieces. And you can just squirt a bit in there with the shock oil. This is not so good for the core where you want a thicker lubricant. Now, the key with lubrication is to use very little. because with this stuff it will make your cubes actually sluggish and gummy. You need to think of it not as providing a wet surface so that it's slick, but instead putting just enough that the tiny amount is on each piece so that it just aids the cube from gliding, because any more than that and it actually makes it worse. Another lubricant that you'll find is this stuff. It's made by Maru, who also make cubes like the CX3. This is their milk lubricant. They do have a silicone lubricant, which is essentially the same as Traxxas and Lubics and the Cubicles lube and everywhere else is lube. But this is different. I'm not exactly sure what this is. I don't think anyone is exactly sure what it's made of. But this is very, very liquidy. And this will make your cube super quick, very quick. But the downside of this is that it runs out. It dries up after probably 20 or 30 solves. It will have dried up and you'll need to re-lubricate, which is not practical in the long run, but very good if you're going to go in for a competition or need it to improve for a short period of time. So I do recommend this. It's fairly cheap, just for those moments where you want to give it an extra boost of speed. So how to lube your cube. What you do is you take it apart, take all the pieces out, you just turn a layer 45 degrees and twist out an edge, and pull out the corner, etc. Like so, and then they should all just come out. Now in here, underneath the cap, if you've got a Rubik spraying cube, you won't be able to lift this cap off, which will be difficult. But if you've got a modern speed cube, you will. And what you want to do is literally just unscrew it, take it completely apart, unscrew all the 6 centers, and you want to put a little bit of lubricant underneath. Inside that there's a spring. Underneath that, on it is there's a washer and a spring on the screw. So you want to lubricate both sides of the washer and the screw head, and then that's inside there. And you want to do that with a thicker lube like this. And then on the pieces, you literally just want to take one edge and just draw a line. So you just be like, draw a line like this, squeezing very gently all the way over, and then the same all the way over there, just on the internal part, and stop. And that's it for the whole cube, just on one edge piece. And then you put it back in, you just keep turning and turning and turning until eventually it works its way through, and that will be enough. With silicone lubricants, you probably need to re-lubricate every 400 or 500 solves, sometimes less frequently than that, although I would recommend every now and then taking it apart and redoing it, just so that you can clean the cube. Like you notice this one's dirty. I've not really cleaned it in a long time, because actually the dirt will stick to it and that actually impedes the cube speed. But that's all you need to know about lubrication. Get a decent one, don't get something that damages your cube. Look for 30k weight or 50k weight Traxxas, or lubricant from the Cubicle or Lubics or something like that. Now, final thing is 30k weight. There's another measure of how thick it is than weight, which is CST, and it's not 100% standard, but I'll leave a rough guide of conversion rates in the description. So hopefully that was useful for you, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like and subscribe button. Have a nice day.